All right. Hey, man.
Hey, hey, are we
Good.
live?
My name is James. Piotr,
My name
maybe
is Piotr.
I got a lot of background from you. So
Ooh,
when
sorry about this.
um, it's been a while since we've done this. The Gimbalabs biweekly update. We haven't done it since early December. Took a little break around the holidays, and it's really fun to be back in action. So, Happy New Year, Piotr.
Happy New Year to you too, and to all our viewers today.
Thank you. Nobody's here yet. We'll see who shows up. And we recently changed our cadence to biweekly because we have just been so busy building that, basically there were a couple of weeks there where we kept showing up and saying, yeah, we just kept building this, this, and this. There's not much more to tell you, right? When you just kind of heads down. So it feels great to be on this biweekly cadence and to really have substantial things to share moving forward. Of course, it's been 5 weeks probably since we last did this. Um, so not we're not going to cover everything in depth today. I want to give a survey of what's going on at Gimbalabs right now. Um, and over the next few weeks, we will go deeper and deeper into a lot of these things. So let's start with shout outs like we usually do. Um, I should have checked the date before jumping in. This is weekly update number 45, but the first one was almost exactly a year ago in January of 2021. Gimbalabs is a Catalyst funded project, and we have been building stuff together, like I said, for about a year now. We've met a lot of great people along the way. Some have stuck around and really got engaged with projects, and others have stayed for a little while until they get their idea or they start working on some other job. So it's good to be here. We've had a pretty similar um, outline to the weekly update every week since week one. We like to start with a couple of shout outs, share an update on what we're doing and what we're doing next, and then to suggest some ways to you, if you're watching this video, on how to get involved. So this week, we haven't had a chance yet since the conclusion of the first Plutus project-based learning cohort to say thank you again. We've talked about Sam and Eli and Ganesh and Matthias, but the four of you guys, thank you so much for being the first cohort of PPBL developers. And we're just so honored to have you as our first set of alumni of PPBL. We want to thank Drip Drops. Peter, have you claimed any drops yet?
I have not. Yeah. Uh,
Come on!
I'm too busy.
Yeah. So we'll talk more about that in just a minute, but just huge thank you to everybody, the whole team at Drip Drops for building such a great service. I mean, the ISPO model took the Cardano community by storm in 2021. And it's really exciting that we now all know about that model and can use it. And what Drip Drops did is they just made that model accessible to anybody who wants to use ISPO functionality, right? When people delegate to your pool, you reward them with tokens. So it's just really exciting. Y'all's take on that. You could have just done it for yourselves, but you built a tool that everybody can use, and huge appreciations to that whole team. Want to thank, as always, delegators to Peace and Gimbal. Part of what Drip Drops has enabled us to do is just give people another reason to delegate to these two small pools. Roberto's been running Peace Pool since the ITN. I spun up Gimbal Pool last April, and I think we minted our 100th block since the last time we did a weekly update. So that was a great moment. 100 blocks.
Hell yeah.
So yeah, Gimbal's running. And so yeah, thanks to everybody who delegates. These are single operator pools. They have very low delegation. And so we always welcome support. the operator rewards we get for running these things really actually help in a big way as Gimbalabs works towards being a self-sustaining organization. And then finally, connecting to a few of these things, want to give a huge shout out to the first cohort of 34 people who opted into Gimbal Token PBL. I'll show you a little bit more about the Gimbal Token in just a moment. But what we're doing is we're starting to take what we've learned about applying project-based learning to a Cardano development environment with the PPBL program. And we're starting to apply those lessons to other topics, okay? I've mentioned in December and November that we're working with the PACE team to start thinking about a Atala Prism PBL. There might be a more general identity or SSID PBL coming in the future. And what started this week was a tokenomics PBL. All right, so in addition to rolling out the Gimbal token for the first time and beginning to distribute it on drip drops, we've also convened a team of people who just opted in. There was no application process necessary. Hey, what's going on, OCG?
Hey, James.
Thanks for dropping in, man.
Yo there, how you doing?
So I was just talking about this first cohort of Gimbal token PBL. Just opt in. Anybody who wanted to, we put up an announcement and 34 people answered the call. And so we're going to be working together for the next few weeks to create the initial rules for how the Gimbal token works. And I'll say more on that in just a moment. Who's missing from this list? There's always more people to shout out than I write on this list in the couple minutes I take to make these slides. Piotr, OCG, anybody to shout out?
I'd like to shout out Randall, actually, our project manager at Gimbalabs. Amazing work he's been doing over the last couple of weeks and just does not get enough attention. Big shout out, Randall.
Yeah, Randall.
Yeah. And I would like also to give a shout out to people who are presenting their ideas on the Tuesday playgrounds. It's really great to hear all these awesome ideas and engage with the people that are working on this. And yeah, it's really
Yes,
good.
absolutely.
Meeting people has just been the best part of participating in this ecosystem. It's unbelievable. I can't believe I've gotten to get to know you guys, and same thing with everybody who shows up for Playground. And that's right. Shout out to Roberto. He's down for the count a little bit right now with a little illness. I think a lot of people are getting a little something right now, but he'll be back on his feet by the next time we do this. So sending love to Roberto. So what we're doing, all of these topics here deserve more than the couple of moments we're going to spend here on the weekly update. Okay. So a lot here to share out on. So I just want to give a quick list of these projects and say a couple of words about them. OCG and Piotr, just jump in and interrupt me with anything that I don't say that's really important to say. But a lot of our time has been occupied here. And one thing that's obviously not included in this list is Dandelion. The work of building Dandelion out is ongoing and actually relates back to a few of these things. So in addition to the continued work that Roberto's leading on that, we released in mid-December Series 2 of Password Chaos. And each series is designed to be available for a little bit more than 27 days. And we have less than 2 days left for Series 2 to sell out. It might not sell out. We don't know. And if it doesn't, that'll just be the end of Password Chaos, and there will only be like 100 or so of them out there as early relics of our work at Gimbalabs. But if you are interested, one way to keep that project going, if it's caught your attention and you've been waiting for the price to go down, I just want everybody to know, go to passwordchaos.io and you can see, I think there's like 50 left right now. And if those sell out, then there will be another series. And if not, we're just going to keep using the technology to make more NFTs, right?
Yeah. Steve just said there are 49 left, so
Ooh,
there's one left.
Okay.
Sold.
Just picked one up. So we're also working on the Gimbal token. This is one thing I am going to spend a little bit more time on in just a moment today. So like I said, thank you to Drip Drops. Initial allocations of Gimbal tokens are available there, but we'll tell you a little bit more about that in just a moment. We've been working, like I mentioned, on project-based learning. Plutus PBL has been focused on two things. One is that we're putting finishing touches on a dedicated marketplace for unsigned algorithms, NFTs. It has been such a great experience coming together, making sure we understand how all the different tools work, and we're putting finishing touches on that right now. Really excited to deliver that. And the other thing that Plutus PBL is doing is we're taking what we've learned over the last 4 months and beginning to outline, like a student-facing course with those resources. There'll be a lot more to share on that the next biweekly update, so we'll share about that then. I just mentioned a little bit about this tokenomics or token PBL, TPBL, you'll probably hear us calling it. Where we're going to work on defining the first allocation of the Gimbal token. So more on that in just a moment, because that's wrapped up in the work on the Gimbal token. And we are very excited to announce that we'll be rolling out the Joey's Hot Sauce project starting tomorrow. So look for the announcement about that drop date tomorrow. Look for our trailer. It's ready to go. We've got a documentary that we can't wait to share with everybody about Joey and Hobbs. And so, yeah, it's going to be really fun to put that out in the world. And we'll be doing a couple of Twitter spaces next week, talking to that NFT crowd about this really unique project. So just look for that one. Anything else to add to this list, guys?
48 left.
Oh, it's ticking. Okay, here we go. That's fun. All right, so quick overview of the Gimbal token. Whoops, that doesn't fit quite on the screen, does it? Let me do this. You see that okay? So we minted 1.618 billion Gimbal tokens. We minted like the golden ratio times a billion, okay? If you don't know what the golden ratio is, just look up Fibonacci numbers or the golden ratio. You can learn a little bit. We like natural dynamics here at Gimbalabs, so we've been using those for Password Chaos and also for the Gimbal token. And what's happening here is that we know that tokenomics is a relatively new field, right? OCG, when was the word tokenomics first coined?
Probably the first time Bitcoin was forked.
All right, so 11 years or so, 12 years. And this is a field that is just still developing. And I know from my life beyond my work here in the Cardano ecosystem, so many of my friends, my family, they really don't have an initial idea about what functionality is coming, right? And we've seen, like, the emergence of the words utility and governance, for example, and people being able to distinguish between utility tokens and governance tokens. It's really, really important, Okay. But I just don't think we've seen the whole story yet, right? And as great as decentralized finance is and what it's going to provide us directly, and the need for decentralized exchanges that yield governance tokens for those exchanges, that is absolutely a really, really important use case, right? And I think there's a lot more for us to discover about how tokenomics will work. So what we're trying to do here is create a space for that sort of experimentation to happen. And so just to show you the allocation of these 1.6 billion gimbals, we started these experiments when Gimbalabs started, right? And so the folks who, the three of us founders, Julie, Roberto, and me, a core team that has gathered and is starting to really be a Gimbalabs organization, and community members who have been supporting our work since very early. You know, we've taken a small slice of this pie, right? You know, 0.2, 0.3, and 0.8%, and allocated it to the community as it exists right now. You know, look, stay tuned for more about how we're handing out these Gimbalabs incentives. And then we took the same amount as the Gimbalabs incentives to allocate to drip drops. So all of this adds up to just over 2%. All right. The other almost 98% of Gimbal tokens are for coming together to define how we use these things in the first place. Writing the rules together, taking the best ideas out there and refining them until they help us meet our goals. And our goal is to figure out how tokens might further support open source development and collaboration across the Cardano ecosystem. All right, so that's our guiding question. How do we support open source development and collaboration? Yeah, and we're going to work together to unpack that. Okay, so there's a group of people that I mentioned before, Token PBL Group 1. The incentives for that group, we're calling that community allocation number 0. And the responsibility of the group that has come together is to write the rules for how community allocation number 1 is distributed, right? And then we will iterate on that process. While this first allocation number 1 is being distributed, we will refine the rules for allocation number 2 together. And the same thing on and on down the list, each time with ideally more people participating in defining the rules and a bigger slice of the pie. And I shouldn't even say rolling out, it's deciding how that rollout works, right? The group of people who works together to decide how this last set gets allocated might decide to meter it out over a long period of time. We don't know, right? And this is still some time away. It's going to take, I'm thinking more on the order of years than months to figure out, you know, for each of these allocations to happen. But all of that, it's really not up to us who, you know, founders and core team. It's up to the people who opt in to figuring these things out together. So I hope that made sense. As the Gimbal token team comes together, we will be sharing the results. But really, you know, what we're trying to do is leave as much space as possible for this work to happen collaboratively.
Any questions in the chat? Any question?
Hey, I know there's always, this is the same thing we ran up against in Password Chaos, is no matter how much you you try to create something where you don't have to make a decision with a round number. We just had to pick a round number, so we picked $1 billion. And I think it was an easy choice to go with billions over thousands, because we want these, we want it to be easy to spread gimbals like seeds, right? Supporting devices, dandelion seeds, so these are not designed to be governance tokens. That will be, I think, something else. And these are designed to be more of a community utility token. And so that's why we went with the greater order of magnitude. Yeah, $1 million might have worked. It's hard to say. But yeah, we just had to, you get to this part where you just have to pick a round number to start a process, and we went with billions. I'm sure there's going to be a lot more questions about this over time. And so, this process is underway. We are working methodically and emphasizing collaboration here. And so, all of that to say, we're not hurrying, right? We're just gradually rolling this plan out. And when it's right, and when this first group reaches consensus that we're ready to roll something out, that's exactly what we'll do. So really excited to see that when it happens. So just to wrap up, before we take a little Q&A, we will continue to share out on those projects that I've outlined and a few more that are starting to be in the works right now. I just realized we didn't even shout out Mandala and talk about that a little bit. So we'll have to save that for next time. But we've seen a lot of people out there entering the metaverse, and we're really excited to see the opportunities that come online. So thanks to everybody who got that project off the ground as well. Your next steps, hey, if you want to earn some gimbals, just delegate to Peace and Gimbal Pool. You get 25 gimbals for every 1,000 ADA staked every epic. And gimbals are fractionalized. So if you stake 100 ADA, you'll get 2.5 gimbals for every epic. And if you haven't headed over to dripdrops.io yet, check it out. It's interesting to know that anybody who wants to has this technology at their disposal now. And that team is very supportive. Heard that we went from 49 down to 48 over the last few minutes. You can go to passwordchaos.io to check the release status, where the price is dropping every moment, and you can see how many NFTs are left. So if you have been on team freeze, waiting for that price to go down, now's your time. And we'll see if these last 48 sell in the next 36 hours or so, something like that.
Yeah, something like this. Yeah.
And then finally, look for our announcement of Joey's Hot Sauce tomorrow. We'll post that on Twitter, and Joey's going to be posting it on his social media as well. So about to have some fun with just a little story. Yeah, so look for that. Any other questions in the chat, or Piotr, OCG, anything you want to add?
Looks like we're actually down to 46 left.
Yeah, so Team 3 is getting it right now. That's that's good.
1 day, 14 hours left. Yeah.
All right, 38 hours, baby. And so we're already down below 23 ADA, right? Like the lowest price is like 18.12. So, you can only save so much more by waiting at this point.
Yeah, it's at 22.84-ish. Yeah, we'll shave 4 ADA off, I guess, over the next 38 hours. Yeah.
The Series 3 is going to be tiny.
Yeah, as a result of how long it took to sell out. Yeah. I'm really interested to explore an exponential price degradation, finding the floor price, so to speak, much faster to encourage the thing to sell out, even if the average price is the minimum price. I'd rather see it, like you were saying earlier, widely spread than make a huge boatload of cash or something like this. So yeah, it's fun to see people like reacting in the chats and the Twitter spaces and learning more about it, and as participating in the governance and the design over the gimbal token, and not to mention this work that we've been doing with Joey's and Mandala. It's all been very exciting and fun. So how all of these disparate elements are going to tie together in the future is kind of the story that's hard to tell at times, I guess, as we're
we need
in
help telling
development.
it. That's why we're inviting people
Yeah.
in. And hey, I actually agree with you. I have argued with a lot of those entrenched multi-pool operators, and hey, what I've come to recognize is that a lot of people have complicated motivations, um, and that part, what does challenge me is the expensive network spammer part. That actually might be a reasonable definition of what Drip Drops is doing, and I'm going to withhold judgment for now. But you might be right? Like that might end up being all it is. And if it does make the network load too expensive, then and it's doing more harm than good, then that's probably a problem. But yeah, it's hard. This is hard and complicated, and right, you build a network with certain ideals, and then reality never matches those ideals, and that's what we are seeing with this
I
entrenched
would
group.
challenge that directly.
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, you can store whatever you want on chain, and you pay directly for the right to do so. It's an open permissionless system, and it's going to be used in myriad of ways by myriad developers. So what you call network spam at this point is exploration, and just the beginning. If the network can't handle the load, then it speaks more to the problems with the network than the problems with the users.
Well said.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's more like a problem of the IHK than people that are building stuff on the blockchain. Just my opinion. Whatever.
Yeah, I'm excited to keep kind of just, you slowly roll a ball forward, a few steps forward, a few steps back. Anybody looking for a single operator pool, you know where to find one. Gimbal pool. Come on in. We only got like 5 million in delegation. We missed out on the CF delegation because the roll of the dice didn't go our way. So it was an honor to be on the finalist list, but of course a bummer to miss out on 14 million ADA, 14 million ADA in delegation. What are you going to do, right? But yeah, if anybody wants to live some of these ideals, we're trying. It's exhausting, but we're trying. And we have a couple of single operator pools that people can look to. Would be nice to use and incentivize decentralization, supporting some actors. Yeah, amen. So just to give you a preview of where the Gimbal token is headed, this is a precursor to Dandelion access. Okay, the Dandelion network is still being built. We want to see this decentralized and robust technical infrastructure more than anything, and we want to see incentives for people to both use it and help perpetuate it. And so that's absolutely where we're going.
We're very happy to partner with Adriano and him integrate game changer functionality directly into the Password Chaos app, for example. Adriano's been a great partner.
Yeah. Oh, he's so easy to talk to.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So part of the plan for the Gimbal token is to figure out how it relates to Dandelion. And I shared this slide before that we've got these 7 waves of development work to do together, right? And so we'll see how much the group of people who comes together chooses to emphasize Dandelion. But the beauty is, even if the team of people reaching consensus about how the Gimbal token works decides not to emphasize Dandelion, right? It doesn't matter, right? The Dandelion, on the Dandelion end, that access can be accessed with Gimbal tokens, whatever the rules there are around them, right? Of course, I don't think it's likely that we will not that there won't be like a pretty clear plan. Like, I think we're going to pretty actively look at the integration from Gimbal to Dandelion access. But in the unlikely event that that is not a priority, we'll still just be able to use an open market to make that connection. All right. Well, hey, it's fun to be back here on Restream. Steve, A, thanks for hanging out. Piotr, OCG, Quasar, thanks for hanging out. And hope to see everybody real soon. Q, we're doing a Spaces with Joey on Monday. We just have to set the final time before we announce it. So looking forward to having you there if you can make it.
Our first update in 2022.
Gonna be a big year.
Deuce is
Exciting.
wild.
Before we go, I think the most exciting thing that we've been talking about behind the scenes, we haven't even mentioned yet. Just to end the conversation on a positive note, some of the first conversations we've had this year with some of our commercial partners, just been really exciting. So looking forward to what's coming this year. Thanks, everybody.
Amen. Thanks, everybody. See you soon.
See you, everybody.